Today, we are not talking about Arcturians, reptilians, Pleiadians, or any other galactic conspiracy theories. This is a different alien nation. Hi, I'm Cypris, and today we are talking about something I'm not sure I'm comfortable talking about, to be frank. And yet, here we are. So, let's see how this goes. Psychologists are talking about a global loneliness epidemic, and that's not really what we're talking about either. Although it's getting closer. I'm talking about that always there feeling that won't go away, that something is just really, really wrong. Like something's just off, and this can't be my life. I must have been dropped off in the wrong family, or the wrong century, or on the wrong planet. It's like all of everything is just a few shades off, or a lot of shades off. And this is not who I am. And this cannot be right. Like finding ourselves in a bad dream that we can't quite wake up from. And how do we wake up? There's gotta be a way to wake up. Or is it just me? The thing is, I don't think it's just me, but how would I know? This Twilight Zone experience of reality isn't a common one, not at this intensity level. At least, I've never found anyone else who really got it. And I'm not aware of any discussion out there for this. And I think somebody's got to start the discussion. So, why don't we try? I'm gonna share my experience because that's all I've got. That's my only real reference. And I'm gonna share what I think is happening in a global sense and how I've come to make sense of it over time. And I really want this to be a conversation. I want you, if you're comfortable, to share how you do or don't identify with what I'm talking about today. Let's get some bearing on what this is outside of my personal echo chamber. Yes? Maybe? Or we find out that I'm actually just batshit crazy and have blasted that fact out all over the internet. So, on that note, let's get into it. Okay, I guess I'm hoping that this discussion reaches somebody, validates the experience of someone. Because if my lived experience is any indication of what some other people might be living with, a light in the darkness could have made all the difference. And if I'd had the theoretical framework for understanding all of this when I was much younger, well, I might have been able to get through life with a bit less agony. And that is why I'm blasting the deepest, darkest secrets of my identity idiosyncrasies across the global communication network. So, what am I? As I mentioned, there are not a lot of us, I don't think. But there also are. It's a spectrum, I think. So even if my experience isn't your experience, maybe stay with us because you might have some overlap, or you might have someone in your circle who's enduring this or a similar complete alienation from this world. Let me explain what I'm talking about a little better. From pretty much the moment I was born, I can remember feeling an urgent, nagging feeling like something's wrong. Like you left the stove on, but you can't quite remember that fact, but the stress of the house about to burn down is still with you. Like you get on a plane for Europe, but when you land, you find yourself on the steppes of Russia. And you try to get the airline employees to fix the error, but they look at your boarding pass and nod as if everything is fine. And what is this Europe that you're talking about? Everything is the icy, wind-blown, barren steppes. There is no Europe, and there is no home. Or perhaps I can better describe it with sound and frequency. Although I hesitate a little at this metaphor because we have an entrenched idea in the New Age community that a higher frequency or vibration equals a more spiritual existence, and a lower frequency or vibration equals an unenlightened mindset. And that's not really it. For me, it's like there's a tone or a vibration that feels like me, like my natural state, like my soul's heartbeat. And then there's the human world. And the dissonance is excruciating. It's not that I'm good and the world is bad, but since I'm the one living in my skin, that is of course how I'm gonna read it, at least at first. But really, I think it's just two things that don't work together. And the maddening part of it is that it seems, probably unfairly, that all of humanity is in harmony with itself, and I am not. And why am I the only thing that feels right to me? Of course, that's not completely true. I have felt a deep alignment with non-human animals and with nature, especially the forest. And yet, oddly, so many humans that scream off-key to me also claim to find harmony in nature. So, what is that? How does that work? I don't know. I just know that, to me, all of the human world is like this roiling cacophony of dissonance that hurts my metaphorical ears, and it's next to impossible to find individual humans who feel comfortable to me, whom I can vibe with. With such an immersive yet isolating experience on this planet, one does just eventually accept that there must be something wrong with me. I feel like the only odd one out. I'm just wired incorrectly, like a toaster that makes sparks instead of cooking toast. Like, maybe I'm a crazy person. Maybe this is what causes madness. It could be. Perhaps I am merely sharing my descent into lunacy with you today, and am not, as I imagine, reaching out to connect with others of my kind. And yet, it doesn't appear to me that I am in a padded room. Yet. So, let's continue. My sense of other was reinforced by an abusive household growing up. I mean, that's textbook, right? You can't feel like you fit in when you are aware that just being in your father's presence is a threat to health and safety, and you spend your entire childhood hiding and executing evasive maneuvers when he's home. It does start one off on the wrong foot. But additionally, there were so many times that I tried to communicate with either my mother or some other adult, and I was treated like nothing more than a toddler. Okay, I was a toddler, but still, it was humiliating. Like, they didn't even recognize that I was actually trying to share an idea or ask about a concept. Instead of a thoughtful response, I got baby talked. Now, in my mother's defense, I must clarify here that she never did the baby talk thing, so don't be coming for her on that. But I can never in my life remember being taken seriously as a human being, until fairly recently by a very few and select individuals. But when I was small, the world saw me as a non-sentient thing to be amused by, like a lapdog. And since I am female and raised in the 70s and 80s and was subject to a particularly conservative faith, that dynamic of non-personhood never actually improved. Is that the source of my discontent and alienation? Abuse, infantilization, and sexism? I mean, it didn't help. But I don't think that's really it. There's a deeper dissatisfaction in me that has always been a bit baffled at human psychology, human behavior, just the basic vibe that humans have. Like, the mind frame is utterly different. Like, the ethical framework doesn't line up with mine. Like, I'm actually from some other planet and trying to figure out the way this funny species functions. And this feeling has been so strong in me that by the time I was a teenager, I had a serious running theory, more hopeful than it was realistic, that I had been left here and forgotten by aliens. and I could go home if I could figure out a way to signal them. The way E.T. called his people back when he got pneumonia or whatever he was struggling with. I knew I was in a human body, okay? Not delusional. And I had it all figured out that I was somehow implanted into a human embryo so I could come into this world in the human experience. But something went wrong. And they forgot about me. And I couldn't quite remember the details, so I didn't know how to flag down the mothership. Even at the time, I did realize this was crazy think. But for me, it was a way to conceptualize that there might be apex beings with whom I could feel a kinship. I had already lost a lot of hope in finding a kinship group on this planet. But I did not give up. I kept searching for a community and failing utterly. And it took me many years to realize that I had already been right way back when I was a child. There is no community for me on this earth. And that is a brutal pill to swallow. However, I've got some thoughts on all of this. A framework I can share with you that helps me calm the fuck down with my existentialism. Maybe some part of it will click with some of you too. Or I'm just sharing my crazy, which is fine. It's fine. I'm fine. We're okay. We're okay. I want to preface this with, I'm not a psychologist. I'm a new age girl, and therefore my conceptual framework is a little woo-woo, which works for me. I'm all about the woo-woo, unless it's ridiculous woo-woo, in which case, y'all making us look bad. Knock that off with the snake oil. So this conceptual framework I've come up with has come partly through a larger discussion out there among energy intuitives, and partly through my own internal struggle for meaning and the occasional nudge and hint from my guides. I do not know as yet how much of this is a working metaphor for me and how much of it is a legit something that's occurring in this realm beyond my personal experience. Hence me feeling really hesitant about sharing it. But I'm feeling the nudge to share, so I'm gonna share. I think at this point, we've all heard about indigo children, and crystal children, and rainbow children, and star seeds, and whatever other terms are out there. And I'm not going to try to tease out the differences in those terms or which ones are legit. Not the point. The gist is that there are souls entering this realm without the aid of full amnesia. They retain some of their memories or other gifts and talents of spirit, like psychic abilities or protege-level skills in certain spiritual faculties. Some people talk about different waves of these souls coming in, and I believe the general consensus is that in generations past, there was a trickle of souls coming in this way, and as time goes on, that trickle becomes a river and will eventually be an ocean. Of course, how we define these indigo children is up for debate. I don't think that matters of the spirit generally fit neatly into the boxes we would assign. And yet, assigning boxes is just about all we've got for making sense of things. So, I guess we'll keep doing it. And here's where we get into my personal ideas and fantasies. I guess you'll have to decide for yourself whether I'm onto something here or I need a room at Bedlam. Okay, no more self-deprecating talk. I've warned you. Let's go down my rabbit hole, shall we? Ugh, that did sound bad. Moving forward. One subset of these indigo children has always been coming to Earth. It's a very small subset, not because fewer of these souls are sent, but because their capacity to remain here is severely compromised. Frankly, they just don't survive. These souls arrive with a more or less intact memory of what it feels like to be in spirit, the reality outside of this one. They may or may not remember their life before life, but the feeling of what should be remains intact. They have a very deep sense of a world that functions, as opposed to all the brutal and systemic dysfunction in this world. I have heard people who tell their stories of near-death experiences describe re-entering spirit before their life reviews, and it seems that the experience of being back home defies any language to describe it. What NDEers all end up saying is that it's a feeling of divine love, like a love beyond anything that this world knows. And this sensation, that ambient feeling of this ultimate form of love, this is what this group of Indigo children arrives with and retains. And I can tell you it sucks ass. See, one of the things that helps people even exist here is that veil of amnesia. If we remembered what it felt like at home, we would be leaving this world in droves. It's too painful. It's too uncomfortable. The resonant dissonance between this realm and the realm we've all come from is too much to bear. It would break us. And so we forget. Even those who experience near-death journeys say the memory of it fades a bit when they come back. We don't remember the realm of spirit. We generally don't remember previous incarnation experiences. And most importantly, we don't remember the ambient tenor of what the world around us should feel like. We acclimate to this little backwater planet that is so full of so much trauma. Well, most of us. There are those souls who come here and don't lose their sense of divine love. And I would say this is a form of love that most humans never even conceptualize while in the body. That is what I think. It just hasn't been part of the program. Even when people talk about godly love or the love of God, what I understand them to be talking about is actually a pale comparison to this real and existence-sustaining love that is the fabric of life, love, and all reality. I want to pause here for a clarification. I don't think these love-sensitive souls are better than others. That's not what this is about. As I said, souls with this sensitivity are actually at a great disadvantage to simply existing in this mortal form. But these same souls could arrive with different settings and not experience this agony, right? It's just what the programming is set at before arrival. It's not a question of who's a more evolved soul. I mean, it feels like it in the reality of enduring it, but ultimately it's just one form of experience, and we all take turns with different experiences, yes? So I'm not trying to toot a proverbial horn here. I don't even care for wind instruments, to be honest. I have plenty of human foibles, and I'm aware of a lot of them. I have intractabilities and snobberies and unevolved quirks, okay? So I'm not saying I'm some kind of bodhisattva. Honestly, when people claim that term, it pisses me the fuck off. I mean, the nerve! So, to get back to these particular Indigo kids, many arrive, but few remain. The isolation, the cosmic dissonance is painful on all levels. Emotional, social, intellectual, physical. It gets you in all the feels. And what happens is a general failure to thrive. In time, chronic illness develops. That is, if the soul doesn't just yeet itself out of here before then. Yet, the wisdom that is, the goddess, the universe, wants souls with this sensitivity here. And so, many get sent with these painful program settings. Like planting tree seedlings. You plant a shit ton more seedlings than you need or want, because so many of them will not make it to be trees. And so then the question is, why? Why in the utter heck of anything would we send souls here to suffer and expire like this? Well, there's a theory. This part's not mine, but I'm incorporating it. And I've talked about this before. The Earth has her own evolutionary path in spirit, and the living things on her are along for the ride. And in the long arc of planetary time, the Earth has put up with our devolved shenanigans for millennia. But she will not endure that forever. Many are saying that there is a gradual change in the vibration of the Earth. We're leveling up. This planet is becoming more aligned with divine love. And that means we've got to evolve too. Humans will have to adapt and transform with this different vibrational tenor. But we've been snarly, hairless apes for a fair few thousand years. As I've mentioned, the true nature of real love is almost completely foreign to this species, in my opinion. So the point of sending these waves of love-sensitive spirits into the quagmire of the human world is to assist with this vibrational shift, to physically anchor vectors, little conduits capable of handling the flow of this love energy. And with time, more and more souls come. With time, more and more of them manage to stick here. What I saw during a guided Diksha meditation is that these souls are being situated, sprinkled across the planet, and some of them even manage to keep their lights shining. And sometimes 2 or more lights make connections and networks of flowing light develop, like looking at a map of an energy grid or viewing electronic lights from space. And as more and more of these souls can manage a foothold here, more and more of these connections occur, and the grid gets brighter and more intricate, and it fills the world. And eventually, even the most wounded, dark, reticent souls cannot help but be aware of this light, until eventually it doesn't matter what programming you arrive with. The whole planet is glowing, radiating with this light of divine love. We've healed all the generational traumas. We've healed the disease of politics. Our school systems function and provide an education in not just sitting at a desk and performing menial tasks, but in living a successful and well-balanced life. It sounds like science fiction fantasy. And right now, it is. But it seems to me that this is the long-term plan for us. I mean, if we don't nuke ourselves into oblivion and force the planet to start over with a more deserving species, maybe the cockroaches could adapt where we couldn't. But as of right now, it's still up to us. And as of right now, this world is still excruciatingly hostile to the waves of love-sensitive indigos that are arriving. And the painful dissonance is going to continue for a while yet. As well, if I've learned anything from freshman biology, it's that nature happens on a spectrum. It's never a binary. And I don't believe the human world is full of only 2 kinds of people. It's not a planet of ignorant, bellicose cavemen interrupted by a small spattering of angelic beings. Okay, I'll admit it feels like that sometimes. Yeah, but what I'm saying is that I don't think this indigo phenomenon is an either-or equation. I think there's a range of sensitivity, and some are more sensitive and some are less. And maybe for some of us it gets selected for more aggressively during our infancies here. And I'm not sure there's any kind of ethical value in trying to determine who's got what levels of magic pixie dust flowing through their spiritual veins. At the end of the day, we all have some of it, and we can focus on letting it flow through us. Or not. I believe we all have the capacity to encounter, to experience this divine love energy. Even the knuckle draggers. A large part of it is just being open to it, letting that light in, seeking out the vibes that feel the most like our spirit's home. What feels uplifting to you? What makes you feel the most at peace? The most like your real self? The most like being wrapped up in a warm, fuzzy space-time continuum blanket of unconditional love. It's my personal belief that the more we reach for the light and the more we seek out what is kind and what is fair, yes, in an unfair world, and the more we radiate and seek out the goodness that does indeed exist in small, awkward pockets here and there in our world, the more we'll make this world a better place. And again, it's not going to be quick. We can't simply vote for spiritual evolution. We have to choose it every day in a myriad of ways. And I'm not saying we don't feel anger or frustration or even meanness. I'm saying we keep looking for the good. I'm not suggesting we have to strive for perfection. I think it's enough just to have the desire for the world to be a better place and to seek out ways to help construct that reality. Seek out people, places, things that already feel like they're raising the resonant frequency of humanity. This is not a call to action, although action is awesome. I guess I'm asking for us to look at this world through a different lens. If anything, I'm asking you to think about the nature of the human world and what we are, and what we could be if we just stopped shitting all over each other. There's a better way, and I think we all remember that way if we really stop and get quiet and feel for it. Despite the veil of forgetting, we all have a spark of the divine inside of us, and we can choose to nurture that spark. And it's not easy. It sucks because that divine spark is at painful odds with so much of our reality here. But that's exactly why it's so important. The more we can get that spark of divine love up and flowing, the more stable and stronger the planetary network of good vibrations becomes, and the easier we'll transition into a better and more humane future. That's how I see it, anyway. Maybe you see all of this differently. Perhaps you prefer a different framework. Maybe my persistent ache for a better world is evidence of just how out of touch I really am. But that's why I want to know your thoughts. Is it naive to think that this world will, or even can, improve, albeit decades from now, perhaps centuries? Honestly, I'm a bit nervous to see the mirror you all hold up, but I can't help thinking there's one or two, or maybe even more souls out there who could take encouragement from these ideas, and for that reason, I felt compelled to share. So, I thank you for listening while I vent, basically. It means a lot. Be assured that upcoming content will be more lighthearted. I will see you in the next video, and until then, keep your spirit wild. Say the memory of it fades a bit when they come back. That was a dune buggy! A dune buggy! We don't have dunes! Fuck!